In this brief video, we're going to go through the process of creating a double arm swing pendulum. As you can see, I've already created two pendulums, both of which are not multi-jointed. They are single solid arms. You can see right here, if we go to rotate these, it's going to swing in this direction like this. Okay, so to get started, we'll notice over here in the lower left corner, I'm at frame 1. You can see right here that both of these are very vertical and they're just about touching here at the bottom. Both of these have been created as a solid object. Basically, the bottom portion of this object, the weighted ball, was a separate creation, and then I made it a child to the long cylindrical portion of the pendulum, and then together this pendulum is a child to this NURBS controller. Alright, and then obviously I duplicated it. Each one of these controllers at the top right here, you can see it has a rotation and a translation set to 0, meaning before I made it a parent to this pendulum, I used the modify freeze transformations to 0 out that location. So therefore, whenever I want to set my pendulums to being back to the home position, it's an easy setting of the rotates to 0. Alright, a couple other things now at this point. If I wanted to rotate this, you'll notice that it's going to always be rotating on the z-axis. So if you would like, you can actually select the translate in the rotate X and Y and do a lock selected on those, so that way you don't accidentally or don't need to set any keyframes on those. And then likewise, we can do the same for the other ones that we're not going to be setting keyframes on. And a repeat on the other side, a lock selected. And once again, this is just to ensure that we don't have to set keyframes on those. It makes it really easy for you to use the S key as a quick setting of a keyframe and not wasting information setting it on channels that you're not going to be utilizing. In the lower right corner, you'll see that I've got my auto key turned on. So basically, any movements that we make on the different controllers, the auto key will key it. Alright, getting started then at frame 1, we're going to select both of these controllers and press the S key. Okay, so this basically sets it so that way this is the starting position at frame 1. Okay, so then what we'll do is I'm going to select this top left one. This is going to be my first wind up. Okay, and let's say at frame, let's do this at frame 10. This will be a quick rotation for this one. Let's set it up so that way it goes -30. So I'll round this down to, round it down to -30 at frame 10. Likewise, at frame, let's see, when it's going to hit us at frame 20 is when it's going to swing back and key the other one. Okay, so at frame 20, I've moved my keyframe down to frame 20. Let's go here and press 0. Okay, so this brings it back to home base. At this point, that force is going to follow through the left pendulum and obviously hit the right pendulum. So what's going to happen though is that even though we've keyed the right pendulum, the last key was at frame 1, we have to remember to re-key this at frame 19, so that way when the contact is made, it doesn't slowly start to move throughout all of these frames using interpolation. Rather, we're going to re-key the right pendulum at 0 at frame 19, so when that contact is made at frame 20, it'll take off and go to the right. Okay, so then let's see, at frame 20, let's click on the left one, and though I've set it back to 0, I'm going to slightly increase it just a smidge so that way you can see that it's going to go a little bit past it, right? And that's where it's going to collide. So it's going to be a little bit past that 0, at which time then we're going to click on the right one, and let's increase the viewing of our keyframes. And let's say at frame 30, this pendulum will swing up to the right, and we'll go again the same 30, precisely 30 units on the rotate Z. Alright, so once again, just to kind of watch this through, how this looks, we're going to watch this one wind up, and then it's going to collide with this one, and then this one winds up at frame 30. And then let's increase the number of keyframes that we can see down here. Oops, I typed in 1 plus 0. There we go. So at frame 30 is when it's at its high point, and then we're going to go down to, let's say, frame 40, and this is when, again, this pendulum is going to zero out, and so it brings it back down. Once again, as a reminder, let me zoom in a little bit more onto these keyframes so I can see all of them. I want to get to frame 39 on the left pendulum, okay, and make sure you rekey this. Let's see, this was at 20, so then at, let's say, 21, let's key this one back to 0. Okay, so basically what I did on the left pendulum was at frame 20 is when it overshot the 0 marker by 0.34 units. That's when it collided with the right pendulum. And then at frame 21, we're going to move the left pendulum back to 0. And technically, if there's a lot of pressure coming through or force or energy, we could make this left pendulum swing a little left, little right, little left slowly, but we're just going to zero it out for sake of ease at this point. So it's been zeroed out. So then, as we were saying, at frame 40 is when the right pendulum is going to collide with the left pendulum. So at frame 39, we have to remember to rekey the left pendulum to 0. Oops, left pendulum. I'm glad I said that out loud. At frame 39, we need to rekey the left pendulum to 0. Okay, press the S key if you have to make sure that this turns red in the channel box. That means the keyframe was set. And then again at frame 40, the right pendulum is going to go a little bit past 0. So we can see that slight movement right there. Like let's do negative 0.3. Okay, so we're seeing that it collides with the left pendulum at frame 40, at which time we could then have this pendulum, the left pendulum, swing upwards. Okay. Now, due to energy and the way Newton's law works, this energy would continue to transfer throughout. For sake of explanation and trying to understand how to set keyframes, we're going to slowly remove the energy from these pendulums, so that way it slowly comes to a decline. Okay. Think of it kind of like you on a swing set. You had a lot of energy and you swing forward and you swing backwards, and if you don't keep pumping your legs, then you're going to slowly lose the momentum forward and backwards. All right, so again, this is at frame 40 then that the right pendulum hit the left pendulum. When we click on the left pendulum, it's now going to swing to the left again, and let's say it's going to go half that amount in half the amount of frames, for example. So at frame 45, let's set this one to the left, and let's go negative 15. Okay, so we got negative 15 there. And again, let's go back to the right pendulum. So here's the right pendulum. If you recall, at frame 40 is when it collided with the left pendulum. So in that frame 41, we're going to zero out the right pendulum once again, so it's back to 0. And then again, the left pendulum took that swing, and then it went to frame 45. And then let's say it takes 5 frames for it to come back down. And so again, at frame 50, the left pendulum will zero out and go a little bit past it. So actually let's do 0.2. Okay, so we can see that there's a collision, or 0.3 is what I think we did last time. There's a collision that takes place right there. Okay, is this making sense, I hope? So 45, it's up, 50, it's down. The right pendulum at frame 50 actually should be zeroed out again. And then give it 5 frames to swing to the right. 15. All right. And then the left pendulum, just as a reminder, when it hit it at frame 50, it went a little past 0, so then at 51, let's zero it out again. Okay, so then it comes back. And the right pendulum, once again at frame 55, is at its 15, and then we'll give it 5 frames to come back down to negative 0.3. Okay, so it goes negative 0.3 and collides. The left pendulum needs to be rekeyed at 0, oops, 0, at frame 60, or I should say at frame 59. Let's key that one. And then at frame 60 is when it hits it. I should probably rekey it there as well, actually. And then let's add in a few more keyframes and slowly diminish this process so it hits it. And then let's say at 60, we'll do half lives at this point, right? So at 63, let's just do -5. Okay, and then we'll do 3 frames further, 66. We'll do 0.3 collides. Once again, we have to remind ourselves to come back to the right pendulum. 60 is when it collided, so 61 is when we need to zero out to the right pendulum. There we go, it's back to 0 again. And so it goes. So then at 66 it collides, and then the right pendulum. At 66 we rekey this one to 0 again, and then let's give it 3 frames, so 69, and have it go up 7 units. Or what do we do, 5 units? What did I just do? I think I did 5. 5 units, so let's select this one. This is the right pendulum. At 69 we'll do 5 units. And as a reminder, the last one that we did on the left was at 66. We overshot it, so at 67, let's set it to 0. Go back to the right one. So at 69 it was at its highest, so let's give it 3 frames, put us at 72, and we'll overshoot it -0.2. It's really losing its energy. And let's see, the right one is good. The left one at 72, we rekey this to 0. So press your S key on that one. And then let's have it just wiggle a little bit to the left. Let's say -1. And then let's give it 1 more frame for it to go back to 0.1. And then let's give it 1 more frame on the left to 0 out. So we'll give a little bit of wiggle time there. And then likewise on the right pendulum, we saw it at 69 at its right, and then at 72 it overshot the 0. So once again it's going to then at 73, let's have it go 0.1 in the positive direction, and then at 74 we'll zero it out. Alright, so let's see what that looks like. I'm going to scrub through it. Looks pretty good. Overall, this is probably going to look way too fast. It obviously probably needs more time to get through these, but keyframe wise it kind of shows you what we're looking for. Not so bad. Okay. Alright, so that is the idea behind setting keyframes. Obviously you can always go into your graph editor and make slight modifications with the tangents. To do that you will go to Window, go to Animation Editors and choose Graph Editor. Inside the graph editor, go and select both of my controllers here. And so you can see both of them are selected, so this is what we're seeing. And really, you're seeing the exact opposite because of the way we keyed it to always be the opposite. Again, that's not necessarily the reality of the physics that goes into this, but for sake of explanation and kind of trying to understand the point of setting the keyframes, having it overswing a little bit, and then coming back to 0. That's the idea behind what we're trying to accomplish in this video. Likewise, if you see that you can shift select both of these curves, okay, so this is the default tangent that you're seeing right here where it's very flat lined. You can modify this, and you'll see that when I clicked on the clamped there was a slight adjustment, and that's part of the slow in slow out process that takes place. Let me move this off to the side for a minute here, and you probably won't really see the differences that take place there, but this swing initially probably needs to be a little bit more snappy than what it's doing. Let's see, so let's break this apart. Oops. that keyframe. That is the break apart, right? Oh, turn that off. We just want the break apart. Oh, there we go. No. Yeah, break. Alright, so now it's broken, and then we can select these and we can change the snappiness of it by pulling these down. Okay, and likewise in this one, we can break this one apart and then drag this one and see if that helps with the snappiness as we're seeing it play out. Alright, so there it goes, and there it goes. Alright, so that looks a little bit better, and then it like kind of snaps down. Alternatively, you could have the slow in and snap down. So you could always modify the slow in and then snap down. So it doesn't know it's about to come to a stop, so that's how you kind of do the idea of the slow in and then snap down. This one could be a little bit more snappier in this direction. Likewise, this is the slow in, so we can drag this one up. There's a little bit of hang time, and then this one would be snapped down a little bit in that direction. So let's give that one more try, and then you can kind of explore and experiment with what looks most natural to you. There you go. All right, hopefully you found this video helpful in understanding the process of setting keyframes, pendulums, making sure that your pendulum has a little bit of an overswing, all key parts of creating this type of file. Have a good one.